what does it take to build a business worth $1 billion? Well, let's take a look at the numbers, shall we? In the US, nearly half of all companies fail in their first 5 years. The average small business owner earns around $70,000, and fewer than 5% of companies ever cross $1 million in sales. So as you can probably imagine, the road to billion-dollar land is filled with traps and challenges, but it's not like it's impossible to navigate, okay? Plenty of businesses have done it, and when you study how, you can actually see a pretty clear path. This is every challenge you have to overcome to build a billion-dollar company. Welcome to Alux, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. Okay, so just quickly before we get started here, let's be clear about what the objective is, because this is where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck right at the start. 99.99% of companies never become billion-dollar companies because they never planned to be in the first place. Most people set out to solve small, usually local issues, like starting a coffee shop or a local marketing agency. And don't get us wrong, that can definitely earn you a living. In some cases, it might even make you rich. But let's face it, it'll never take you to $1 billion because it doesn't happen by accident. If you want to build a billion-dollar business, your first challenge will be to find a billion-dollar problem to solve, and that is the first challenge in this journey. Look at Uber, for example. The global taxi industry was worth billions of dollars, but it sucked. Airbnb solved the problem of overpriced hotels and underused homes. Netflix took on the frustration of renting DVDs. Amazon tackled the inefficiency of retail. PayPal simplified online payments. SpaceX is lowering the cost of putting things into orbit. The common thread in these billion-dollar companies is they hunted down problems big enough that solving them unlocked billions of dollars in value. Because if you're the one who solves it, a slice of that value flows straight to you. So if you want to build a billion-dollar company, don't waste your time chasing tiny problems. Think bigger, okay? Go after the problems that are worth $1 billion. Now, solving a big problem is obviously only half the battle because tons of people can see the problem, but very few can turn it into the right product. And that's where the second challenge on the journey to billion-dollar land comes: creating a category-defining product. Take electric cars, for example. They've actually been around for over a century. But before Tesla, nobody actually wanted to drive them because they were clunky, ugly, and painfully slow. Something you only bought if you were obsessively eco-friendly. When Tesla launched the Model S, it was fast, it was sleek. It felt like you were getting all the good things from a regular car, but higher tech. And there wasn't a single other company that could match them. The Model S was the category-defining electric vehicle because it turned EVs from a niche experiment into the future of the auto industry, and every other car company was suddenly playing catch-up. To build a billion-dollar business, you can't settle for being slightly better than what already exists. You have to set the new standard, and that's what a category-defining product does. So, with a billion-dollar solution to a billion-dollar problem, you've got the foundation of a billion-dollar business. But honestly, plenty of companies with a lot of potential die in this stage. So many founders think building the product is the finish line, when in reality, it is just the start. That's why the third challenge is to build a scalable distribution system. The best example of this is Amazon. They sell everything, right? So it's not even that they have some groundbreaking product. Instead, they've got warehouses, vans, thousands of delivery drivers. They built an engine that could get anything into anyone's hands, anywhere. Amazon became the storefront for the entire internet, but today, it isn't really a retailer. It's a distribution company. You see, a category-defining product without scalable distribution is just a prototype. Billion-dollar businesses win because they have a distribution system that can scale exponentially without collapsing under its own weight. They figured out how to get their product seen, how to sell it, and how to get it into people's hands, millions of people's hands. And a few years ago, we were asking ourselves that very same question. We had built something we knew could change people's lives, and honestly, the best way to get it out to the world was to just tell our audience about it. We've built an app that's designed to help you achieve financial freedom and build your dream lifestyle. It's called the Alux App, and hundreds of thousands of successful professionals, creators, and entrepreneurs already use it to stay on track with their goals. Inside the app, you'll find the tools and lessons that will teach you how to manage your money like a pro, from entrepreneurship to investment fundamentals to real long-term wealth-building strategies. If you give it 10 minutes of your day every day to learn how to think strategically about money, you will make progress, my friend. Now, it's not cheap, but as a special thank you for being here today, you can scan the QR code on screen and download the app to get 25% off the yearly plan. So what are you waiting for, Alux, or go all in on yourself and never look back? All right, so getting on to the more advanced stuff now, you can brute force a business with your own energy and a little bit of help. But if you truly want to scale, especially to $1 billion, you'll eventually realize something. You can't be everywhere, you can't do everything, and you can't even be the one who makes all the decisions. So how do you make sure good decisions keep happening in your company even when you're not the one making them? Well, that's what the fourth challenge is, creating a powerful company culture. And there's no better example of this than Google, okay? From the outside, Google's culture looks like it's about free lunch and colorful offices with ping pong tables. But it's not, okay? Day to day, Google employees are encouraged to think big, take risks, and even spend 20% of their time on projects outside of their main role. That's how products like Gmail and Google Maps were born, because the culture created an environment where good ideas could flourish without needing approval from the very top. Google's culture is all about fostering innovation and experimentation at every level, and that's a big reason why they're so successful. At the end of the day, a company's culture is a shared set of values, habits, and expectations that keep it moving in the right direction even when the founder isn't in the room. Because at the end of the day, a company is called a company for a reason. Businesses scale on people, and a powerful culture is what ensures those people are aligned, driven, and working toward the same mission. Now, beyond that, there's a stage in every company's life where the excitement starts to be replaced by chaos. A missed email here, a late shipment there. It is messy, but survivable. But when you start to grow seriously, suddenly one late shipment becomes 10,000. One buggy product update crashes millions of devices, and one accounting mistake lands you in jail for fraud. The truth is, plenty of businesses don't grow as much as they could because they're just, well, sloppy. That's why the fifth challenge on your way to billion-dollar land is instituting operational excellence. And this concept actually comes from Japan. So after World War II, Japan became an electronics powerhouse. They became known for their craftsmanship, efficiency, and a certain standard of quality that you just couldn't get anywhere else. Sony, for example, built its reputation internationally by making operational excellence a guiding principle. For them, how they made their products, how they ran their business, and even tiny details like keeping their offices clean and their handwriting neat were just as important as the products themselves. All of that is operations. The real turning point for a business comes when it realizes that if it wants to be a world-class company, it needs to do everything in a world-class way. Because small things add up, okay, positively and negatively, and usually how you do one thing is how you do everything. But the thing is, once you're operating with Japanese-like efficiency, you'll probably realize that you're not the only one. Other companies have standards too, so this is basically the price of admission. Therefore, if you don't protect your business from the competition, everybody else will take what you created and run with it themselves. That's why the sixth challenge is securing a competitive moat. A competitive moat is like a unique advantage that protects your business from copycats and keeps competitors from taking your market share. Look back at the companies that we've already talked about. Sony's moat was their operations. Amazon's moat is its distribution, as is Coca-Cola's. Google has its culture and the sheer amount of data they have access to. Apple has its ecosystem, where each device locks you in a little bit tighter until switching to something else becomes basically unthinkable. You see, the thing is, on your journey to a billion-dollar company, you're gonna be fighting to win customers, stealing market share, and fending off constant attacks from competitors who want to eat your lunch. A moat is what protects you in that fight because it makes sure that once you win a customer, they stay with you. Which means that once you grow, you never shrink back down again. Once you've got a competitive moat, it's smooth sailing. But if you want to build a company that will still be around hundreds of years from now, you've still got a few interesting challenges to tackle, okay? Because even with a competitive moat, you need something that will always make people prefer to buy from you. So how do you do that? Well, the 7th challenge on the road to a billion-dollar company is to build an iconic brand. This is something that only a few companies really truly understand. Your features can be copied, your prices can be undercut, your competitors can always swoop in with something faster, cheaper, or shinier, but billion-dollar companies rarely sell the thing they sell. For example, Coca-Cola sells sugar water, but they really sell happiness, right? Nike sells sports apparel, but they really sell victory. Amazon sells convenience. Volvo sells safety. Toyota sells reliability. All of these massive companies sell a product, yes, absolutely, but what they really sell is what those products are associated with. To give you one more crazy example, look at Red Bull, okay? On paper, Red Bull sells an energy drink, but their brand is associated with energy, adventure, risk-taking, adrenaline, extreme sports, living on the edge. When people take a blind taste test and they don't actually know they're drinking Red Bull, they often call it disgusting. But slap a Red Bull logo on a can and suddenly they go crazy for it. That is the power of a brand. It elevates you from selling the thing to selling the thing behind the thing, the story. Billion-dollar businesses don't just sell products, they sell an identity. And if you manage to capture something special, you're gonna make a lot of money, my friend. Okay, so at this point, you're like 99% of the way there. You've built a product, distribution, a culture, a brand, operations, and secured a moat. But how do you make sure your company doesn't just reach $1 billion, but stays there basically forever? Well, the 8th challenge is becoming too big to fail. Apple is one obvious example here. At this point, their products are no longer just gadgets. They're how hordes of people communicate, work, pay for things, and store their memories. Millions of people couldn't imagine life without their iPhone simply because it's practically an extension of themselves. Or look at Microsoft. Their software is the backbone of governments, corporations, and critical infrastructure worldwide. Pull Microsoft out of the equation, and society as we know it grinds to a halt. But the real too-big-to-fail companies are often invisible. Take Visa and MasterCard. If they disappeared tomorrow, trillions of dollars in transactions would vanish overnight. Or look at the biggest banks. When things got, shaky in 2008, governments had no choice but to bail them out because otherwise the entire financial system would have gone down with them. Honestly, if you're building a company and you're going big, this is the end game, to become so deeply woven into people's lives that the world literally can't function without you. Alrighty, Aluxer, those were the 8 challenges you'll face on your way to building a billion-dollar company. We'd love to know what billion-dollar problem you would love to solve, so drop us a comment down below. And remember, if you're serious about actually improving your life and putting everything you're learning in these videos into action, scan that QR code on screen and get 25% off the Alux app. I'd love to see you on the inside. With all that said, take care, my friend. We'll see you back here next time.